What's up everybody, Sean here and thank you for joining me. Today I have a little surprise that I am going to save to the end of this review. So if you're interested to know what it is, please watch all the way to the end. Or you can just skip right to the end using the chapters down below. But before we begin, wristwatch check, I am wearing the Orient Kano today, which is their entry-level, larger size diver. And I'm actually reviewing this piece right now, so stay tuned. But today we are looking at something a little bit different from what I normally review. This is a watch from a micro brand in Singapore called Feynman Timekeepers. Now while I do look around at micro brands, Feynman particularly stands out to me for their unique designs and limited quantities. In fact, it was my dad who first told me about the brand, as he particularly liked the watch that I am reviewing today, the Feynman One Classic. Unfortunately for him, however, this particular Feynman One Classic colorway was among the first generation of watches that they ever produced, which means that this watch is already completely sold out with no future reproduction intended. I am told, however, that some of the other colorways from this series are still available for sale, but given the very limited quantities that they were originally produced in, you have to be quick if you want one. Thanks to Stitches and Buckles and Feynman Timekeepers themselves though, I was able to get one in for review, so shout out to them. This watch comes in at a case size of 39.2mm with a lug-to-lug distance of 47mm and a lug width of 20mm. Case thickness is 12.5mm and the case material is stainless steel. We have an AR coated sapphire glass on the front and a screwed down sapphire display case back on the back. This watch is not automatic, it is a manual wind watch using the ETA 7001 movement. It has a power reserve of 42 hours, 17 joules and a water resistance of 50 meters and a selling price of 1,388 Singapore dollars. So Feynman Timekeepers are a micro brand from Singapore founded by Singaporean Lim Yong Kiong. Their pieces are truly unique, taking design cues and inspiration from both urban and natural environments. Their watches are definitely far from being cookie cutter factory templates, and thus they are made in relatively low quantities. It is really quite hard to explain their aesthetic to you, so I'll just show you what I'm talking about. The Feynman One line is their first ever line of dress watches. It comes in 5 different color variants, each being given a different name. For example, the blue dial is called the Eclipse, while the red dial is called the Wine. They also have a white dial One Eye Panda, a grey dial Classic, which is the one I'm reviewing today, and a green dial Founders Edition because green is Lim's favorite color. To date, they have also released several more lines, including a very artistic feel and diver range, which I hope to be able to bring in for review someday. But for today, we'll be focusing on the grey dial Feynman One Classic. So while I normally don't talk about the packaging, it would be quite an injustice not to highlight the amount of effort that has gone into the Feynman One packaging. Immediately, we are presented with a wrapped wooden box, and inside it, we have a lovely matching leather pouch that is lined with microfiber and features the Feynman Timekeepers logo. Along with that is a very nicely done spec sheet, which also includes the quality control certification for both the watch and the leather strap, as well as an instruction sheet for operation and care. Judging from the quality of the leather pouch alone, I'd say you're getting quite a bargain for the price already. So at 39mm, the case fits my 6.25-inch wrist very well. It isn't the most discreet though, especially not for a dress watch at 12.5mm thick, but that's not really the point of this watch. Although you would traditionally classify this as a dress watch, it quickly becomes apparent that it was made to be seen and admired rather than stay hidden under a cuff. That is not to say that it shouts out for attention like an Invicta or Richard Mille, as it is far more soft-spoken than that. It sits there with a quiet confidence and gives an acknowledging wink to those who recognize its brilliance. The case is a circular stainless steel body that is mirror polished all around, apart from the top face of the bezel, and it has a well-defined coin edge on its side. We have chunky angled lugs that break away from the smooth aesthetic of the case, which somehow reminds me of Aztec ruins. Now, I'm not an expert on the Aztecs, so this may actually be an inaccurate description, but that is the general vibe that I'm getting from this case. The lugs curve down very nicely onto my wrist. At the 4 o'clock, we have an onion-like signed crown. This is a push-pull crown and not a screw-down crown. I really like this sort of crown as they are very tactile to operate and hence typically found on Flieger or Pilot watches. Now, although this is a dress watch, it is a manual wind, which means you'll be using the crown very regularly, so it is nice to see a tactile crown being used here. One interesting quirk to note is that the crown is offset from the center of the case, very likely due to how deep the movement actually sits inside it. On the back, we have a screwed down exhibition case back that shows off the decorated movement in all its glory without a rotor to obstruct the view. I honestly like to see a rotor spinning around, but that is personal preference. To top off the case, we have a nicely domed sapphire crystal sitting above a brushed top bezel. With a 50-meter water resistance rating, however, I would avoid anything more adventurous than washing my hands. Now the dial is where things really start to get interesting. Everything from the face to the small seconds hand to the chapter rings all appear to be custom designed, with only the exception of the main minute and hour hands. This dial comprises of several layers, the lowest being a honeycomb textured face on the main inner dial. I'm normally not the biggest fan of honeycomb, but this one is really well done. A small seconds dial overlaps into the main inner dial, with radial grooves adorning the protrusion. While the hour and minute hands are pretty conventional, polished leaf hands, the small seconds hand is crafted to represent a lizard's tail, which happens to be Lim's lucky animal. This hand runs over a sub-dial ring, while a larger raised main dial ring runs over it. The remainder of the surrounding dial is a radially brushed grey face, which plays very nicely with the light. A highly angled chapter ring is laid around the rear. Now, Feynman specifically chose to use 3 different languages for the 3 different rings, with the chapter ring featuring Roman numerals, the main inner ring featuring Arabic numerals, and the small seconds ring featuring Chinese characters which translate to 30 and 60 respectively. These Chinese characters are actually one of the features that my dad particularly likes about this watch, which is kind of ironic because he actually failed his Mandarin back in school. Finishing off the dial is a Feynman Timekeepers nameplate, which also appears to be painstakingly angled and crafted into a lizard motif. In terms of the movement selection, they could hardly do much better than their choice of an ETA 7001. This is a proven movement from one of the best third-party Swiss movement manufacturers around, and there's really not much more I even need to say about it. Now, this is a hand-winding movement only, and instructions have been included in the box on how not to overwind it. The provided leather strap is another standout here to me. This strap appears to have been specially commissioned and made for this range of watches by E-Leather, which is a leather craft business also based in Singapore. It is made of genuine lizard skin with a calf leather backing. The quality of this strap to me really adds even more value to the whole package. Now, when brand new, it is actually quite stiff, but it does break in nicely with some time on the wrist. If you do, however, prefer to save this strap for special occasions, aftermarket options are plenty as this is a 20mm lug width. The custom signed buckle is also congruent in design as the case, featuring similarly angled edges. The only real complaint I would have about it is that the pin is quite hard to fit into the holes when brand new. Otherwise though, I think this is a lovely pairing complementing the entire design philosophy of the watch. So final thoughts on this watch. Without sounding like a fanboy, this really is a work of art. It really is its own design, and when you consider that this was actually Feynman's first ever design, you can't help but be excited about what is coming up next. As it stands right now, I believe that they are already into their 4th line of watches, all of which have so far been made in very limited quantities, so you've got to be quick if you happen to see one that you like. The Feynman One itself though is definitely not for everyone, as it is the kind of piece that was made to be a talking point. This grey one is probably already the most subtle of the lot, and is yet still bound to attract some attention, but will do so in a classy and subtle way. Now, I did say I have a little surprise at the end of the video, and that is regarding this watch. So today is actually my dad's birthday, and to be honest, this watch is not a review unit. It is actually the last brand new piece of the Feynman One Classic that is available on the market, which my dad did not know about. So a really big thanks to Feynman Timekeepers and Stitches and Buckles for helping me to hunt it down, because I managed to get this one for you, Dad. Happy birthday, and come over and get it from me. And that wraps it up for today's video. If you liked it and would like to see more like it, please consider giving a like and subscribe to the channel below, and I'll see you in the next one.